Maria Santos was making breakfast for her children when every screen in their house suddenly turned on. The morning news disappeared, replaced by something that made her blood freeze. A massive alien ship filled the screen, and behind it she could see the beautiful blue and green world of New Geneva. She called for her husband and kids. They gathered around the kitchen screen, confused and scared. Maria's youngest daughter asked why the aliens looked so angry. Across the galaxy, the same scene played on billions of screens. The galactic hegemony had taken control of every communication device in human space. They wanted everyone to watch what came next. Admiral Zektar appeared on screen. He was tall and thin, with gray skin and black eyes that showed no emotion. Behind him stood representatives of 11 other alien species. They called themselves the Council of 12, and they had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Humans, Zektar said in perfect English, you have forgotten your place in this galaxy. Today we remind you. The camera turned to show New Geneva floating in space. It was humanity's pride. A world with sprawling cities, green parks, and crystal-clear oceans. 10 billion people called it home. Children played in its streets. Families lived peaceful lives under its warm sun. Maria grabbed her children closer. She had a sister on New Geneva. Her nephew had just started school there. This world defied our authority, Zektar continued. Its people refused to bow to the natural order. They built weapons. They spoke of independence. This is what happens to those who forget their place. The alien fleet began to move. Hundreds of massive ships positioned themselves around New Geneva. Each ship was larger than a human city. Their weapons powered up with an evil red glow. On Earth, President Chen watched from the Global Defense Council's war room. Her hands shook as she saw the alien fleet surround humanity's most beautiful colony. Around her, generals and advisors sat in shocked silence. Surely they won't, General Morrison whispered. They would. The first energy beam struck New Geneva's northern continent. The blast was so bright it turned the camera white for several seconds. When the image cleared, an entire continent was gone. Just melted rock and boiling ocean remained. Maria's daughter screamed. Her son ran from the room. But Maria could not look away. Her sister was down there somewhere. The bombardment continued for 6 hours. The alien ships took turns firing as if they were playing a game. They were methodical and patient. They made sure every city, every town, every farm was destroyed. Nothing would survive. The camera showed close-ups of the destruction. Forests turned to ash in seconds. Mountains melted like ice cream. The beautiful blue oceans boiled away into space. Zektar provided commentary like a sports announcer. Sector 12 is now complete. Moving to Sector 13. Notice how efficiently our weapons work. This is the power of true civilization. Across human space, people wept. They prayed. They begged the aliens to stop. But the aliens did not care about human tears. On Earth, President Chen watched 10 billion people die. She saw children's hospitals vaporized. She saw schools turn to glass. She saw farms where families had lived for generations become craters of molten rock. The other world leaders looked to her for guidance. What could they say? What could they do? Humanity's entire space fleet could not stop even one of those alien ships. When the bombardment finally ended, New Geneva was gone. The beautiful world had become a ball of cooling lava. Not a single blade of grass remained. Not one building stood. 10 billion human souls had been murdered in 6 hours. Zektar appeared on screen again. This time he smiled. This broadcast has been sent to every species in the galaxy. Let them see what happens to those who defy the hegemony. Let them learn from human foolishness. He leaned closer to the camera. Humans, you have a choice. Submit to our rule. Accept your place as our servants, and we will allow your remaining worlds to survive. Continue your rebellion, and every human world will share New Geneva's fate. The transmission ended. Every screen went black. In the war room, silence filled the air like poison. Generals stared at their hands. Advisors wiped tears from their eyes. The Secretary of Defense quietly vomited into a trash can. President Chen stood up slowly. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with something the aliens had never seen before. They had expected fear. They had expected surrender. They got something else entirely. Madam President? General Morrison asked quietly. What are your orders? Chen walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were celebrating. They thought they had won. They thought humanity would bow down and beg for mercy. They were wrong. Chen turned back to her advisors. Her voice was steady and cold. Contact Project Prometheus. Tell them it's time. Prometheus? General Morrison looked confused. But that project doesn't officially exist. Nothing we do from now on will officially exist, Chen replied. The aliens want to show the galaxy what happens when you kill human children. Let's show them what happens when you make humanity angry. She walked to her desk and opened a secure communication line. Deep beneath the Sahara Desert, lights began flashing in a facility that appeared on no government records. Dr. Martinez, Chen said into the communicator. Operation Extinct is now active. Far below the desert sand, Dr. Sarah Martinez smiled grimly. She had been waiting for this call for 20 years. Behind her, scientists worked on technology that would have seemed like magic to the aliens who had just destroyed New Geneva. Understood, Madam President, Martinez replied. The hegemony just made their last mistake. Across human space, other secret facilities came online. Ships hidden in asteroid fields powered up their engines. Agents who had lived their entire lives pretending to be alien citizens received coded messages. The aliens thought they were fighting a primitive species armed with simple weapons. They were about to learn that humans had been preparing for this war since first contact. Maria Santos hugged her children tight and whispered that everything would be okay. She did not know about Operation Extinct. She did not know about the secret weapons or the hidden fleets, but somehow she knew the aliens had made a terrible mistake. They had killed human children on live television. They had murdered 10 billion innocents just to make a point. They had forgotten that humans were not just another species. Humans remembered their dead. Humans loved their children more than their own lives, and humans never forgave those who hurt their families. The war for humanity's survival was about to begin, but the aliens still thought they had already won. That mistake would cost them everything. Dr. Sarah Martinez walked through the underground halls of Project Prometheus. Her footsteps echoed in the massive facility that stretched for miles beneath the Sahara Desert. Around her, the best minds from Earth worked on technology that officially did not exist. 20 years ago, when humanity first made contact with aliens, most people celebrated. Finally, they were not alone in the universe, but some humans had been more careful. They remembered Earth's history of what happened when advanced civilizations met primitive ones. Martinez had been one of those careful humans. She convinced world leaders to create Project Prometheus in secret. While diplomats smiled and shook alien hands, her team studied every piece of alien technology they could find. They had help. Not all aliens supported the hegemony. Some were refugees from species the hegemony had destroyed. Others were rebels who hated their own governments. These aliens shared their knowledge with human scientists, teaching them secrets the hegemony thought were safe. Now, standing in the main laboratory, Martinez looked at weapons that could destroy entire star systems. Ships that could travel through dimensions the aliens did not know existed. Technology that bent the laws of physics themselves, Doctor, her assistant called. President Chen is requesting a briefing for the Global Defense Council. Martinez nodded. It was time to show Earth's leaders what 20 years of secret preparation had created. 2 hours later, Martinez stood before the most powerful people on Earth. The Global Defense Council met in an underground bunker that could survive nuclear war. Today they needed to plan something much bigger than nuclear war. The hegemony thinks we are primitive, Martinez began. Holographic displays showed alien ships and weapons. They see our technology and assume we are thousands of years behind them. This is our greatest advantage. President Chen leaned forward. Explain. They measure advancement by the size of weapons and the speed of ships, Martinez continued. But humans think differently. We don't just build bigger guns, we build smarter ones. The holographic display changed to show a human ship. It looked small and weak compared to alien vessels. Then the image shifted and the ship seemed to fade from existence. Phase technology, Martinez explained. We learned it from the Zelani refugees. Their species was destroyed by the hegemony 300 years ago, but they taught us their greatest secret. Our ships can exist partially outside normal space-time. General Morrison stared at the display. You mean invisible? Better than invisible. Undetectable. Our ships can attack from directions that don't exist in normal physics. She touched a control, and new images appeared. But stealth ships are just the beginning. We have weapons that can disintegrate matter at the quantum level. engines that use dark energy itself, communication systems that work through parallel dimensions. How many ships do we have? President Chen asked. 300 ghost fleets. Each fleet has 50 ships, all hidden in locations the aliens cannot find or reach. Gas giant moons, asteroid bases, even inside nebula clouds. The room was silent. Earth's leaders had known Project Prometheus existed, but they had not imagined anything like this. There's more, Martinez continued. For 20 years, we have been placing agents throughout hegemony space. Deep cover operatives who live entire lives as alien citizens. They have families. They have jobs. Some of their own children don't know they are human. Sleeper agents, General Morrison whispered. The largest spy network in galactic history. We know the location of every hegemony base, every ship, every leader. We know their military codes, their trade routes, their family addresses. President Chen stood up. What do you need from us? Nothing, Martinez replied. We've been ready for years. We just needed someone to say the word. Then I'm saying it now. Begin Operation Extinct. Across the galaxy, the word spread through channels the hegemony could not detect. Human agents received coded messages hidden in commercial broadcasts. Deep space listening posts picked up signals that lasted only nanoseconds. On the alien world of Velkar Prime, a shopkeeper named Jorim closed his store for the day. His neighbors knew him as a quiet trader who sold human art objects. They had no idea that Jorim was actually Captain James Richardson of Earth Intelligence. For 15 years, Richardson had lived on Velkar Prime. He had married a local woman. They had 2 children together. His alien wife loved him deeply and trusted him completely. She had no idea her husband was gathering information about hegemony military installations. Richardson felt sick about the deception, but New Geneva changed everything. The aliens had murdered 10 billion humans just to make a point. Now it was time for the point to be returned. He activated a communication device hidden in his basement. The signal traveled through subspace channels that hegemony science said were impossible to use. Agent 7 reporting. He whispered. I have complete schematics of the orbital defense grid. Uploading now. Similar reports came from agents across hegemony space. A diplomat on the Council homeworld sent guard rotations and security codes. A trader near the main shipyards transmitted fleet movements and weapon specifications. A teacher on a military world provided lists of every officer and their personal information. In 24 hours, human intelligence knew more about hegemony defenses than the hegemony knew about themselves. Deep in space, the first Ghost Fleet powered up their engines. Admiral Sarah Chen, the president's daughter, commanded from the bridge of the ship called Vengeance of Geneva. Around her, 50 other ships shimmered into existence as they partially entered normal space. All ships report ready, her communications officer announced. Target? Admiral Chen asked. Hegemony supply convoy, 12 ships. They're carrying weapons to reinforce the fleet that destroyed New Geneva. Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. The aliens were celebrating their victory by moving more weapons into position to kill more humans. No survivors, she ordered. Understood. No survivors. The Ghost Fleet moved through dimensions the aliens did not know existed. They traveled faster than light without using normal hyperspace. They approached their target from angles that should have been impossible. The hegemony convoy never saw them coming. The battle lasted 30 seconds. Human weapons struck from empty space, tearing through alien shields like paper. The convoy's distress signals were blocked by technology that jammed communications across multiple dimensions. When it was over, 12 alien ships were gone. Not destroyed, completely vaporized. Nothing remained but scattered atoms and the fading energy signatures of weapons the hegemony had never seen before. Similar attacks began across the galaxy. Ghost Fleet struck supply lines, isolated patrols, and remote bases. Each attack was quick, surgical, and left no survivors. But the humans were learning from each battle. Every alien ship they destroyed was first scanned and analyzed. Every piece of technology was studied and improved upon. Human weapons became stronger after each fight. The hegemony noticed the missing ships but assumed they were mechanical failures or accidents. They had no idea they were at war. Dr. Martinez watched the reports come in from her control center beneath the desert. Each successful attack meant dead aliens, but it also meant more knowledge. Human technology was evolving at an impossible rate. Doctor, her assistant called, we're detecting massive energy buildups across hegemony space. They're mobilizing their reserve fleets. Martinez smiled coldly. Let them come. They still think they're fighting the humans they saw 20 years ago. They have no idea what we've become. Above them, the night sky looked peaceful, but across the galaxy, a war had begun that would determine the fate of both species. The aliens had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. They were about to learn one themselves. Admiral Zektar stood in his command center aboard the mighty dreadnought Eternal Dominion. Through the massive windows, he could see the beautiful rings of Hegemony Space Station Alpha 7. Everything looked peaceful and normal, but something was wrong. "Admiral," his aide reported nervously, "we've lost contact with another supply convoy." Zektar frowned. "Mechanical failure?" "That's the 15th convoy this month, sir. And we found no debris from any of them." This was becoming a problem. For weeks now, Hegemony ships had been disappearing across the galaxy. Not destroyed in battle, just gone. One moment they were there, sending regular reports. The next moment, silence. "Could it be pirates?" Zektar asked. His aide looked uncomfortable. "Sir, some of the missing ships were full battle cruisers. No pirate group in the galaxy has weapons powerful enough to destroy our warships." "Then what is happening to them?" Neither alien had an answer. But deep in space, Captain Marcus Reed knew exactly what was happening to them. Reed commanded the human ship Wraith of Geneva. Like all ghost ships, it existed partially outside normal spacetime. To alien sensors, it was completely invisible. To alien weapons, it could not be targeted. Reed's crew were all volunteers. Every person on his ship had lost family on New Geneva. They had nothing left to live for except revenge against the aliens who murdered their children. "Target acquired," his tactical officer announced. "Hegemony Patrol Group, 6 destroyers." Reed looked at the alien ships on his screen. They looked so confident, cruising through space like they owned the galaxy. They had no idea death was watching them from dimensions they could not see. "Do they have families?" Reed asked quietly. His intelligence officer checked her files. "Yes, Captain. All 6 ships carry personal quarters. Total population, including families, 4,000 aliens." "The same aliens who cheered when they watched our children die," Reed replied coldly. "The same species that turned genocide into entertainment." Reed's finger hovered over the firing control. For a moment, he thought about the alien children who would die. Then he remembered the human children floating frozen in space around New Geneva. Fire. The Wraith of Geneva phased into normal space for exactly 2.3 seconds. In that time, its weapons unleashed hell on the alien patrol. The destroyer's shields collapsed instantly. Their hulls vaporized. Their crews died before they could even send a distress signal. Then the Wraith phased back into dimensional hiding, leaving only empty space where 6 ships had been. This scene repeated across the galaxy. Human ghost fleets struck everywhere at once. They hit supply lines, patrol groups, isolated stations, and transport convoys. The attacks came from every direction, sometimes simultaneously across thousands of light years. The Hegemony tried everything to stop the disappearances. They increased patrols, but the patrol ships disappeared too. They added escort vessels to convoys, but entire escort fleets vanished. They installed new sensor arrays that could detect stealth technology, but the arrays themselves were destroyed by invisible attackers. On Velkar Prime, Administrator Zulman was losing his mind trying to understand what was happening. Reports flooded his desk every hour. More missing ships, more silent patrols, more empty space where Hegemony forces should have been. "Sir," his assistant announced, "the Council of 12 is demanding answers. They want to know why we're losing ships faster than we can build them." Zulman looked at the tactical display. Red markers showed where ships had vanished. There were hundreds of them scattered across the entire galaxy. "What am I supposed to tell them? That our ships are being destroyed by ghosts?" "The humans, sir. Could this be human retaliation for New Geneva?" Zulman laughed bitterly. "Humans? Those primitives can barely travel between star systems. They have no weapons capable of threatening our fleet." He was wrong. Humanity had weapons the Hegemony could not imagine. But more importantly, they had something the aliens lacked: the ability to learn and adapt faster than any species in galactic history. Every alien ship the humans destroyed was first scanned completely. Every piece of technology was analyzed and improved. Human weapons became stronger after each battle. Human ships became faster and more maneuverable. Dr. Martinez watched the progress from her command center on Earth. Holographic displays showed human forces spreading across the galaxy like a plague. Each victory brought new knowledge, new capabilities, new ways to hurt the aliens who had hurt them. Doctor, her assistant reported, our latest ships are testing dimensional phase technology that operates in 7 different reality layers simultaneously. 7 layers? Martinez was impressed. The aliens only know about 3. We're also detecting quantum tunneling in their communication networks. We should be able to intercept and alter their messages without them knowing. Martinez smiled grimly. Do it, make them paranoid. Make them afraid of each other. Across hegemony space, communication networks began carrying strange messages. Ships received orders that no one had sent. Commanders got reports of enemy activity that did not exist. Slowly, the aliens began to suspect each other of sabotage and betrayal. But the disappearances continued. If anything, they got worse. Entire star systems went silent overnight. Whole battle fleets simply vanished without sending any final transmission. Admiral Zektar realized they were at war, but he did not know who they were fighting. The enemy was invisible, untouchable, and seemed to be everywhere at once. How many ships have we lost? He asked his aide. In the last month? Over 3,000 vessels, sir. Zektar felt cold despite the warm bridge air. That's more than we lost in the last 10 wars combined. Yes, sir. And the rate is increasing. Yesterday we lost 47 ships. Today we've already lost 62. Have we seen any enemy vessels? Any evidence of who is attacking us? No, sir. Our ships just stop existing. No distress calls, no debris, no energy signatures. They're there one moment and gone the next. Zektar stared at the tactical display. The red markers of missing ships now covered almost the entire galaxy. Whatever was hunting them was winning. Could it really be the humans? He asked quietly. His aide looked doubtful. Sir, even if humans had advanced technology, they don't have enough ships or personnel to attack so many targets simultaneously. The aide was wrong. Humanity had built thousands of ghost ships using automated factories hidden throughout space. Each ship was crewed by artificial intelligence that could think and react faster than any biological brain. The ghost fleets were growing larger every day. Automated shipyards consumed asteroid fields and turned them into warships. Self-replicating technology meant that every victory created resources for more victories. Captain Reed received new orders as his ship drifted invisibly near a hegemony fortress world. His next target was not a ship or a convoy. It was the orbital defense platforms protecting the planet below. Sir, his tactical officer reported, those platforms defend a civilian population of 2 billion aliens. Reed looked at the peaceful world spinning below them. Cities sparkled like jewels in the darkness. He could see parks and lakes and what looked like schools where alien children learned to read. For a moment, his resolve wavered. Those children had done nothing wrong. They were innocent. Then he remembered the broadcast of New Geneva's destruction. He remembered alien crowds cheering as human children burned. He remembered Admiral Zektar's smile as 10 billion humans died for his entertainment. Target the platforms, Reed ordered. All of them. Sir, without orbital defenses, that world will be completely helpless. Good, Reed replied. Let them know what it feels like to be helpless. Let them understand what they did to us. The Wraith of Geneva attacked the orbital platforms with weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The platforms could not fight back against attacks coming from directions that did not exist in normal space. One by one, the massive defense installations simply vanished. Not destroyed, erased from reality itself. In their place, human constructs appeared, broadcasting a simple message to the terrified world below. The message was footage of New Geneva's destruction, played over and over again. At the end of each loop, words appeared in the alien language. You did this. Now you pay. Similar attacks happened across the galaxy. Every hegemony world lost its defenses overnight. Billions of aliens huddled in their homes knowing that invisible enemies surrounded their planets. The hunters had become the hunted, and the hunt was just beginning. The Council of 12 met in emergency session for the 5th time this week. Around the circular table sat representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy. Each face showed fear and confusion that would have been unthinkable just months ago. Admiral Zektar addressed the council with a voice that shook slightly. Honored members, we have lost over 10,000 ships in the past 60 days. Entire defense fleets have vanished without a trace. Council Speaker Vorthak, leader of the ancient Kethani species, leaned forward. You promised us the humans were defeated. You said they would surrender after seeing New Geneva destroyed. The humans have not responded to our ultimatum, Zektar admitted. No surrender message, no peace offering. They have been completely silent. Silent. Counselor Rexty of the Warrior Growlok laughed harshly. They are anything but silent. Our worlds live in terror of invisible attackers who strike without warning. The truth was worse than any of them wanted to admit. The hegemony, rulers of the galaxy for thousands of years, were being systematically hunted by an enemy they could not see, could not catch, and could not understand. On Velkar Prime, civilian administrator Zulman stared out his office window at empty sky. The massive orbital defense platforms that had protected his world for centuries were gone. In their place hung strange metallic structures that pulsed with ominous energy. Sir, his assistant entered nervously. The human structures are broadcasting again. Zulman closed his eyes. For weeks now, the human constructs had been transmitting the same horrible message. Video footage of New Geneva's destruction, played endlessly on every frequency. But worse than the images were the words that appeared at the end. 9,900,000,000 to go. The humans were keeping count. For every life lost on New Geneva, they intended to take 10 alien lives in return. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Sir, there's something else, the assistant continued. Citizens are reporting strange dreams. Nightmares about human children crying for help. Zulman shuddered. The psychological warfare was devastating. Across the hegemony, aliens who had cheered New Geneva's destruction now faced their own mortality. They went to sleep knowing invisible enemies watched them from dimensions they could not reach. But the humans were not content with fear alone. Dr. Martinez had moved to the next phase of Operation Extinct. In her underground command center, she studied reports from across the galaxy. The ghost fleets had eliminated most hegemony military assets. Now it was time for something more ambitious. Begin Phase 4, she ordered. Her assistant looked concerned. Doctor, Phase 4 crosses lines we've never crossed before. We're talking about attacking civilian infrastructure. They crossed that line when they murdered 10 billion civilians, Martinez replied coldly. Now they learn what it means to be helpless. Across hegemony space, the attacks shifted from military to civilian targets. But these were not random strikes of destruction. They were something far more sophisticated and terrifying. The humans had learned to manipulate matter at the quantum level. Instead of destroying alien infrastructure, they began transforming it. On the trading world of Nexus 7, the massive space elevators that connected the surface to orbital stations simply vanished one night. Citizens woke to find the elevators replaced by enormous human constructs that did nothing but broadcast footage of New Geneva's burning cities. The food distribution networks on Growlok Prime stopped working when quantum manipulation turned all the transport tubes into monuments to dead human children. Billions of warriors who had cheered the destruction of New Geneva now faced the possibility of starvation. But the most terrifying transformation happened on the hegemony. Capital World itself, Velkar Prime's planetary government, operated from a massive complex at the planet's North Pole. The building was a symbol of alien superiority, designed to impress visitors with hegemony power and authority. One morning, the entire complex was gone. In its place stood a perfect replica of New Geneva's Capitol building, as it had existed before the bombardment. The human structure was beautiful and peaceful, with gardens and fountains and places where children might have played. But inside the building, holographic displays showed what had happened to the real New Geneva. Every room contained footage of the destruction. Every corridor echoed with the sounds of human voices calling for help that never came. The message was clear. This is what you destroyed. This is what you took from us. This is what we will never forget. Government officials who tried to enter the building found themselves paralyzed by weapons that attacked their nervous systems. They could see and hear everything, but they could not move or speak. They were forced to watch the footage of New Geneva's death over and over again. The psychological impact was devastating. Alien leaders who had ordered the destruction of human worlds now faced the reality of what they had done. They saw human families running from the energy beams. They heard human children crying for their parents. They watched 10 billion innocent lives end in fire and pain. Some aliens went insane. Others killed themselves rather than face the guilt. A few tried to organize resistance movements, but how do you fight an enemy that exists in dimensions you cannot reach? Captain James Richardson, the human agent living on Velkar Prime, watched his alien neighbors grow more terrified each day. His wife asked him why he was not afraid like everyone else. "The humans will protect us," he told her, hating himself for the lie. They would never hurt innocent people. But Richardson knew the truth. The humans had moved beyond concepts like innocent and guilty. They had become something new, a species driven entirely by the need to balance the scales of justice. For every human life taken, 10 alien lives would be claimed. The count continued. 9,800,000,000 to go. The ghost fleets had grown enormous. Automated factories turned entire asteroid belts into warships. Each ship was larger and more powerful than the last, equipped with weapons that could alter reality itself. Admiral Sarah Chen commanded the largest fleet from her flagship, the 10 Billion Voices. Around her, 1,000 ghost ships prepared for the final phase of Operation Extinct. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 17 hegemony worlds." "Response?" Chen asked. Standard reply, "We do not negotiate with child killers." Chen nodded. The humans had no interest in surrender or peace. They had watched their children die for alien entertainment. Now the aliens would learn what that felt like. The final assault was planned for maximum psychological impact. Instead of attacking hegemony worlds one at a time, the humans would strike every world simultaneously. 12 homeworlds, hundreds of colonies, thousands of space stations, all would face humanity's wrath at the same moment. Dr. Martinez made the final preparations from Earth. Around her, technicians readied weapons that could reach across the galaxy instantly using quantum entanglement networks that connected all hegemony worlds. "Doctor," her assistant asked quietly, "after this attack there won't be much left of hegemony civilization. Are we sure this is what we want?" Martinez thought of the children on New Geneva who had been vaporized while playing in parks. She thought of families who had died holding each other as their world burned around them. They wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about power. She said finally, "We're going to finish that lesson for them." The countdown began. Across human space, ghost fleets moved into final positions. The weapons that would end the hegemony forever powered up with energy drawn from the hearts of stars. The aliens had started this war by killing 10 billion humans on live television. The humans were about to end it the same way. 1 year after New Geneva burned, the hegemony gathered every ship they had left. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the combined military might of 12 species. 3,000 vessels stretched across space, cruisers, battleships, carriers, and the massive dreadnoughts that had once made the galaxy tremble. It was everything they had. Every warrior, every weapon, every piece of technology that had survived the year of invisible hunters. If this final attack failed, the hegemony would have nothing left. Target confirmed, his navigator announced. Sol system directly ahead. The human homeworld. Zektar felt a mixture of hope and desperation. For months, his people had lived in terror of unseen enemies. Worlds had been stripped of their defenses. Billions of civilians cowered in their homes, waiting for invisible death to claim them. But Earth was different. Earth was the source. If they could destroy the human homeworld, perhaps this nightmare would end. "All ships prepare for final translation," Zektar ordered. "Today we finish what we started at New Geneva." The massive armada jumped to faster-than-light speed. 3,000 ships carrying the last hope of the hegemony raced toward Sol system. They expected to find a primitive world protected by outdated defenses. Maybe a few hundred human ships at most. They would overwhelm Earth with pure numbers and end humanity's rebellion forever. Instead, they found themselves completely surrounded. The Sol system had changed. Where once there had been 9 planets orbiting a yellow star, now there were structures that defied understanding. Massive constructs the size of moons hung in perfect formation around Earth. The asteroid belt had become a ring of weapons platforms that pulsed with impossible energy. Even the sun itself looked different. Its surface showed patterns that should not exist, as if human technology had reached into the heart of the star and rearranged it for purposes the aliens could not imagine. "Sir," the sensor officer's voice cracked with fear. "I'm reading. I don't know what I'm reading. These energy signatures are off every scale we have." Admiral Zektar stared at the tactical display. Thousands of contacts surrounded his fleet, ships that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once, weapons platforms that drew power directly from the vacuum of space. technology that made the hegemony's most advanced systems look like stone tools. A communication signal reached his ship. The voice that spoke was calm, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its certainty. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Terran Defense Force. You are surrounded and outgunned. You have 10 seconds to surrender unconditionally." Zektar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back with expressions of pure terror. But surrender was not an option. The hegemony had ruled the galaxy for millennia. They would not bow to primitive humans. "All ships attack," he shouted. For the glory of the hegemony. 3,000 alien warships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams capable of destroying planets lashed out at the human defenses. Missiles that could crack moons streaked across space. The combined firepower could have sterilized entire star systems. Nothing happened. The human shields absorbed the attack without even flickering. Weapons that should have been unstoppable simply vanished into defensive barriers that existed in dimensions the aliens had never discovered. Admiral Chen's voice came again, now tinged with something that might have been pity. "You still don't understand what you're fighting, do you?" The human counterattack began, but it was not what anyone expected. Instead of destroying the hegemony fleet, the human weapons did something far more sophisticated. They began to change it. Zektar watched in horror as his ships transformed before his eyes. Hull metal flowed like liquid, reshaping itself into new configurations. Weapon systems rewrote themselves according to principles that followed human engineering. Even the crew quarters altered their layout to match human preferences. "What are they doing to us?" his tactical officer screamed. The answer came from Admiral Chen. "We're giving you the gift of understanding. You wanted to teach the galaxy about power. Now you get to learn what real power looks like." The transformation was not random. Human technology had evolved beyond simple destruction to something far more elegant. They were not conquering the alien fleet. They were converting it. Every ship, every weapon, every piece of technology was being absorbed, analyzed, and improved upon in real time. Within minutes, the hegemony armada ceased to exist. In its place hung a fleet of hybrid vessels that combined the best of both human and alien technology. But they no longer served alien masters. The crews found themselves changed as well. Not killed, not enslaved, but fundamentally altered. Their minds were expanded to understand concepts they had never imagined. For the first time in their lives, they experienced emotions the way humans did. Zektar felt something new flooding through his consciousness. Guilt. Remorse. The crushing weight of understanding what he had done to New Geneva. He saw the faces of human children who had died in the bombardment. He felt their terror as the energy beams fell from the sky. "What have you done to me?" he whispered. "We've made you human," Admiral Chen replied. "Welcome to empathy, Admiral. Welcome to the ability to understand that your actions have consequences." Across the transformed fleet, alien crews experienced the same revelation. Warriors who had cheered the destruction of New Geneva now felt the full emotional impact of 10 billion deaths. They understood, perhaps for the first time, that their victims had been real people with hopes and dreams and families who loved them. Many went insane from the guilt. Others begged for death to escape the weight of what they had done. A few tried to fight back, but their weapons no longer obeyed them. But the transformation of the fleet was only the beginning. Dr. Martinez activated the final phase of Operation Extinct from her command center on Earth, using quantum entanglement networks that connected every hegemony world. Human influence spread instantaneously across the galaxy. On Velkar Prime, Administrator Zulman felt his mind suddenly expand beyond anything he had thought possible. New concepts flooded his consciousness: love, compassion, the ability to feel another being's pain as if it were his own. "No," he gasped, falling to his knees. "I don't want to understand," but there was no escape. The transformation reached into every alien mind, forcing them to experience the full emotional weight of their species' actions. They felt the terror of human children as the bombardment began. They experienced the grief of human parents watching their families die. They understood the desperate love that had driven humanity to this terrible revenge. The warrior species Growlak, masters of conquest and destruction, found themselves overwhelmed by an emotion they had never experienced: regret. Their entire culture was built on the idea that strength justified any action. Now they understood the pain their strength had caused. The Cathani, who had perfected biological warfare, discovered their own biology rewritten by human science. They were no longer quite alien, no longer quite themselves. They had become something new, a species capable of feeling the suffering they had inflicted on others. Each of the 12 hegemony species faced a similar fate. Not destruction, but transformation into something that could understand the value of individual life. The process took exactly 12 hours, 1 hour for each species that had participated in New Geneva's destruction. When it was complete, the galaxy fell silent, not empty, transformed. Where once the hegemony had ruled through fear and violence, a new order began to emerge. Aliens who had never felt empathy now worked to undo the damage their species had caused. Weapons were converted to tools of healing. War fleets became rescue vessels. The counting stopped. The broadcasts from human constructs fell silent. The ghosts of 10 billion dead finally rested in peace. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of her flagship, looking out at Earth's blue and white beauty. Her grandmother, former President Chen, joined her at the window. "Is it over?" the elder Chen asked. "The war is over," Sarah replied, "but the real work is just beginning. We have to teach them how to live without causing pain to others. And if they can't learn," Sarah's expression hardened, "then we'll teach them again, and again, until they understand that every life has value." The last transmission from Earth echoed across the transformed galaxy. It was not a threat or a warning. It was a promise. We are humanity. We remember our dead. We protect the innocent, and we never forget those who hurt our children. The age of the hegemony was over. The age of empathy had begun. In the ruins of what had once been New Geneva, a single flower bloomed from the cooling lava. It was impossible according to every law of physics and biology, but humans had moved beyond the possible into the realm of will made manifest. The flower was white, like the memorial gardens that would one day cover the world again. Its petals caught the light of New Geneva's sun, a sun that now burned with energy patterns designed by human science to nurture life instead of merely providing heat. 10 billion voices whispered in the solar wind, no longer crying for vengeance but singing songs of hope for a galaxy that had finally learned the cost of cruelty. The transformation was complete, the war was won, and the dead could finally rest.